Hey everyone. So, everyone's been asking, what is Taproot? And I'd love to explain what Taproot is, and I'd love to explain what Schnorr is at the same time, because it's not unreasonable for us to be as excited as we are about these upgrades. These are long, long awaited, fantastic improvements to Bitcoin, and it really bears understanding and evaluation. So, let's get started. Let's take a look at what it means to have Bitcoin sitting at an address and to spend them. You have, let's just go real basic DSA lesson, just the basic cryptography of what's going on here. You start with a private key, and that private key is hashed a bunch of times and eventually turns into a public key. And that public key already is enough to tell someone and say, hey, can you send some Bitcoins to this public key, please? We don't really do this anymore. We hash the public key once again and turn it into a public key hash. This is P2PKH, the predominantly used address type up until pay to script hash came around, which we're going to get into in a bit. But for the meantime, let's just go with the basics. You have a hash of a public key, which is a hash of a private key, and coins can be sent to that address. The public key hash is actually a Bitcoin address, and it's going to start with a 1. And if Bitcoins are sitting there and someone, doesn't have to be you, wants to spend the Bitcoins, move them from there to somewhere else, they generate a transaction and they say, move coins from this address to that address, please, Bitcoin network. And what comes is everyone they send that transaction to will say, okay, but we didn't see a valid digital signature. And the only person that can create that signature is the person that knows the private key that was hashed and turned into that Bitcoin address. If you do know it, then you sign it, and then they run opchecksig on it, and they verify that, oh, the person who signed this transaction actually knew the private key. They were the owner of that coin. They were the owner of those coins, or, assuming they didn't somehow stumble upon your private key, steal it from you, or something like that. That's a valid transaction. Coins move from that address to somewhere else. All good. But the digital signature algorithm we've been using is ECDSA, or elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. It has its problems. It would have been Schnorr the whole time, as far as I can tell. This is the only part of the video I'm not 100% sure about, so if someone wants to correct me, please do. But I'm pretty sure this is correct anyway. Schnorr, as a digital signature algorithm, is better in every way. The only reason we're not using it in Bitcoin in the first place is because it was under patent until 2012, and Bitcoin was launched in 2009. So it wasn't available to us then. So now we have to soft fork it in and start using it now and offer it as an alternative rather than it just being the default in Bitcoin in the first place. But Schnorr is way better. And the reason it's better is because ECDSA has some limitations. And the limitations are it stops us from being able to scale and do some of the more sophisticated things we want to do. So the transaction mechanism, which I just described, that changes somewhat if you start using more modern address types, because all that address type is that I just described initially is a hash of a public key, which is a hash of a private key. In reality, a lot, and maybe at this point most, Bitcoins are sitting at script hashes, not public key hashes, which means you can create an actual script, and that script can be hashed into a Bitcoin address, and coins can sit at that Bitcoin address, but now you need to know how to satisfy the conditions of the script to be able to spend coins at that address. That obviously allows for a whole bunch of sophistication to go on, and smart programmable money starts to become more apt as a description of what we're doing here. Smart contracts, stuff like that. That's amazing, but the problem is whenever you have any sophistication in the script, namely with regard to having lots of signatures needing to sign it, so for example it might be a multi-sig address, those are all pay to script hash. Being pedantic, there is a pay to multi-sig address type as well, but no one uses it. So pay to script hash addresses, for example, can be a hash of a script that requires multiple signatures to sign it. That's the essence of a multi-sig address. Now, that's something that I think most people already understand fairly intuitively. You can have a Bitcoin address that needs different parties to sign a transaction in order for the coins to be able to move. Great, there's obvious use cases for that. That means, 4 people can own some Bitcoins, and 3 of them at any one time, for example, is enough to decide whether those coins are moved or not. And it can be m of n. You can have 100 people of 1,000 that need to sign it. But the problem is with ECDSA, the digital signature algorithm that Bitcoin uses, in order to have multi-sig, in order to have lots of signatures sign off on a transaction, they don't aggregate. So you have to have them all as part of the transaction that gets put in the blockchain, which uses a lot of space, and space in Bitcoin's blockchain is very expensive, as it should be. It's the most persistent form of data we've ever created as a species. If you want to put data in Bitcoin's blockchain, it's not free. It's still ridiculously cheap, but if you want to put a lot of data in, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And transactions that are huge in size, because they have hundreds of people signing it, with using ECDSA, that's going to cost you a lot of money. And that puts a limitation, mainly a financial limitation, on what's actually possible with scripts within Bitcoin. What Schnorr does as an alternative digital signature algorithm is it allows aggregation, which means it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 people signing off on a transaction, it all aggregates to one signature. And that's an obviously amazing upgrade to Bitcoin, because rather than go down the route of making blocks bigger and bigger and bigger, what Bitcoin has done is say, we can't have infinitely big blocks. We need to limit the size for a whole bunch of reasons, and the size is already limited and no one wants to change it. What we need to do is find a more efficient way to use the space we already have. And that's what Schnorr does. And according to Eric Lombroso, a guy I have so much respect for, He estimated that it would equate to roughly, if everyone used Schnorr, it would equate to roughly a 40% capacity increase in Bitcoin, or in Bitcoin blocks specifically. That's incredible, and that's a real smart way to scale the network. So that's an amazing thing to see. Schnorr's great. It's not just great for that reason, though. It's also weirdly, and this is a point made by Aaron Van Weerden, who I'd like to shout out in this video, because I went over his great article on Schnorr and MAST and Taproot before making this video, just to make sure I have everything right. He's a great technical writer. He's one of the reasons Bitcoin Magazine is such a great publication and one of the best resources in the space. Anyway, as he made me aware in his article of another great benefit of Schnorr, which is coin joins. We can do coin joins already, but they will tend to be, if you're using Wasabi Wallet, 70 to 100 people all putting in 0.1 Bitcoin into a transaction and getting back slightly less Bitcoin than they put in, but the only thing that you're guaranteed of is that you don't get the coins you originally put in. And what this does is it breaks any sort of ability for people to analyze. If someone knows you have some Bitcoin and they know what address it's at, if you coin join your Bitcoin, they don't know they don't know which coin is yours after it's been coin joined. So it's a way of breaking surveillance mechanisms and spying, and it's a way of preventing people from being able to do that. CoinJoin is awesome, but as you might have guessed, if you're talking about 70 to 100 people needing to sign off on a transaction, it's an enormous transaction and it costs a lot of money because you're putting so much data into the blockchain. So that disincentivizes the use of it, and it means that people using it are obviously suspiciously very financially interested in their privacy, and that raises red flags, certainly with certain exchanges, and it's unethical for them to create problems over it, but they do, and we don't like them for it. But what Schnorr does is it means you can all split the cost of a regular transaction between you, because Schnorr aggregates all of the signatures together into one signature, so you're left with just a normal transaction with a normal fee, because you're putting so much less data into the blockchain that you have a much lower fee, and 100 of you are doing it, right? So you can divide that fee between all 100 of you. You're paying less for a coin join than you would for a regular transaction in which you're not coin joining. So Schnorr is now incentivizing you economically to use a privacy-preserving technique or practice within Bitcoin that is something we're always telling people to do, and please do it, because the more people do it, the better it is for everyone. But people don't do it. But if it's cheaper to do it, then people are definitely going to do it. And I mean, that's just Bitcoin's incentive structure all over it, isn't it? It's the same with the renewable energy. You could come along and offer people a financial incentive to use renewable energy. That's how you that's how you improve things. Anyway, I digress. That's some of the amazing things about Schnorr. Schnorr is not, this upgrade is Taproot and Schnorr. No one talks about Schnorr. Schnorr is amazing in and of itself. We've wanted it forever. It's coming. I really hope it's coming. We'll talk about the activation method towards the end of this video. Let's move on to Taproot. And basically, I just need to explain MAST and then the tiny little bit added on to MAST to make it Taproot. I will stick on to the end of that explanation. So MAST is great in another way. So we've already talked about script hashes. Bitcoins are sitting at a hash of a script, and they can't be spent unless you know the conditions in which the script can be redeemed and evaluate to true. What this means currently, without any of these upgrades, is unfortunately that you need to reveal all, if and when you redeem the script, you need to reveal all of the other conditions in which the script could have been redeemed. And there could have been hundreds or thousands. And again, that uses up so much data in the blockchain that people don't do sophisticated stuff with it, because it would just make the transactions unwieldy and just insane. And it's also terrible for privacy, right? We don't want to reveal more than we have to publicly. So if we have 100 conditions in which some Bitcoin could be spent, and you're using condition 57, and that's the one you always thought you were going to use, and the other 99 are all edge cases that were very, very unlikely to happen, that you'd really rather not reveal, but they need to be there in the first place. Wouldn't it be great if there was a mechanism by which, if everything went according to plan and you redeemed the script in the way you thought you were going to redeem it, you didn't even have to reveal that there were all these alternatives? Lightning Network is a great example. If you're closing a channel with someone and you don't want to reveal and it's cooperative, then it would be great if you could just do the transaction in a way that didn't reveal all of the other ways in which Lightning has to protect itself and protect users from being able to scam each other, because Lightning has a lot of complex mechanisms in it by which to prevent people from scamming each other, and that means having lots of conditions in which scripts can be redeemed. But having to reveal all those makes operating and opening and closing Lightning channels quite expensive. So that's what's going on at the moment with script hashes. But an upgrade to this that we've always wanted is Merkleizing everything in a structure called MAST, or a Merkleized abstract syntax tree, where each condition in which the script can be redeemed is hashed, and then all you have to reveal to the network is just the Merkle root and the path to the one condition in which you decided to use to redeem the script. So MAST prevents a whole bunch of leakage of all of the other conditions in which the script can have been redeemed. So that's great for privacy, and MAST is the dream. We've wanted it for a long time, and that's coming as well. It means you use a lot less data because you don't have to reveal all the other conditions, and you preserve the privacy by not having to reveal those conditions as well. But the only thing with MAST is there's no way to hide that it's a MAST transaction in the first place. That's the only thing that sucks about it. When you add Schnorr into the mix, then you can only in the cooperative case, but generally speaking, that's always the case that is going to be what the transaction ultimately ends up being. When you broadcast your MAST transaction, or when you spend money from a script that's MAST, you no longer even need to reveal in the cooperative case that it was MAST in the first place. So everything starts to just you start to see transactions on the blockchain that just all look identical, and they can, instead of being complicated scripts that use a hell of a lot of data that have to reveal all the other conditions in which the script could have been redeemed, all of that is now gone. And I should say that at this point we're talking about Taproot, not MAST, because MAST, in order to have the full benefits we're talking about here, combining MAST with Schnorr is what enables you to redeem all of this in a way, in the cooperative sense anyway, where you no longer, not only do you not have, MAST allows you to not reveal the alternate scripts, the alternate ways in which the script can have been redeemed, but Taproot goes a step further and says you now no longer even have to reveal that there was a MAST structure. So this thing just looks like a regular transaction, and it's using virtually no space on the blockchain because of the Schnorr sigs, meaning everything's aggregated. So you've only got one signature signing a transaction that's just one redemption of a script that might have had 10 million alternative possible redemptions, and all of them are hidden from you. They don't need to be known. They don't need to be stored on the blockchain. All that's sitting on the blockchain is what needs to sit there, what we'd ideally want, and there's no compromises having to be made with it. So this is all just, I hope I haven't lost anyone with that explanation. It's not the easiest thing to explain, but it's appropriate for us to be really excited about this upgrade, because it allows so much more functionality to Bitcoin, and it takes functionality we already have and makes it so much more economically viable. And it preserves, and it also means that we really do like the fact that people operating Lightning channels or closing Lightning channels in cooperative instances, which is what nearly all Lightning channel closures are, no longer have to reveal the fact that they're even using the Lightning network. That's fantastic. We don't want, if you had, in an ideal world, that's what you'd ask for, and it's what we can actually get with this upgrade. So we don't want stuff on the blockchain to reveal anything about what people are doing that it doesn't need to reveal. And that extra part about the economic incentive to use CoinJoin instead of just do regular transactions, that's just a fantastic, that's just so good. I can't help but get a smile on my face when I talk about it. So yeah, these upgrades are wonderful. We're really excited about it. The activation mechanism by which we're hoping to get it activated looks to be successful. There's a lot more to say on that, but it's not necessary to do right now, and it might never be necessary, frankly. There have been 2 approaches taken, and some hostility between the 2 different groups making those approaches, but that's not really any reason to dwell on that now, particularly given how successful the dominant approach is looking. So what we actually need is for miners to signal activation for Taproot, and they need to do that at a threshold of 90% within 1-2 week difficulty period. That's 2 weeks is a rough estimate, because things are very hectic at the moment with China banning Bitcoin every other day and miners turning off and on and rainy season and all that. So we're going to drop 16% in difficulty next adjustment, which means it will have been more than 2 weeks this period. Nonetheless, back to the Taproot activation, we have 6 potential periods in which we can activate Taproot using the dominant activation method that's been rolled out on the network, which is called Speedy Trial. The first one already failed. No one really expected it to succeed. We're in the middle of the second one right now. It will definitely fail, but if miners were signaling at the ratio they currently are right now and had been since the beginning of the second period, it would look likely that it would succeed this period. And we still have 4 more. So I'd be quite surprised if it doesn't activate within the next 2 periods. If it doesn't, then there's 2 more periods after that. And if it doesn't activate then things get quite crazy and not really... I don't think it's that likely to happen, but we're kind of covered, to be honest, because there's another client on the network, one that I released, that eventually guarantees activation of Taproot, but there's going to be a lot of arguing, put it that way. But I don't think this scenario is actually going to play out anyway, so we'll come back to it if we need to. We'll address that. Yeah, so it looks like we're actually going to get this great upgrade, and sorry for the interruption there. So it looks like it's going ahead. It looks like a great thing. I hope I've done a good job explaining in this video how much of a positive upgrade this is for Bitcoin. It makes everything better for people that would even ignore it. It's a backward compatible upgrade. You can use Bitcoin as you have been for however many years you've been using it. All you're going to notice is that blocks get slightly more efficiently used, so there'll be a little bit more space, so maybe transaction fees drop down. Only a positive for you if you choose to ignore the whole thing. It's a delight to see the project move so slowly and carefully and just squeeze every last drop out of the resources that are available to Bitcoin without asking anything more from the ecosystem. We don't need anything more from the nodes. The nodes can carry on as they have been. Everything is just being done as it is before, but slightly more efficiently. Like, you're not going to find that in the altcoin space, and it's another reason to steer clear of it. Things are being designed in Bitcoin to last for decades, centuries. They're not being designed to dazzle you with features and to build something that's ultimately unwieldy and impossible to stick together and maintain and keep afloat, except for the fact that they're centralized and can just keep fixing stuff whenever they like. So, you know, you end up in a situation where just you have two separate ecosystems completely, and this is a great example of that. Anyway, that's pretty much all there is to say on Taproot for now. Thanks so much to Tone Vase and all the people that have come from Tone Vase channel. I've seen a lot of new subscribers to this channel over the last couple of days after Tone had me on his news channel along with Jimmy Song and Giacomo Zucco. It was great chatting to those guys. It's been really good seeing all the new subs to this channel. That's really encouraging to me. It helps me to make more videos and justifies me spending more time doing this. If there's anything in this video that's not making sense, as usual, please just comment and I'll try and clarify. And if there's anything you'd like me to do a video on Bitcoin related in the future, please let me know that as well, and I'll try and get around to doing stuff like that as well. So thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.